And we do have our third speaker today, somebody we just really onboarded last night, because I just really wanted to bring in somebody who will motivate you. And okay, this was my son bursting in. It had to happen today.
But so I busted in with my head.
He had to interrupt my stream. So Jayshree, I am going to ask you to introduce yourself, and let's just start with your talk whilst I deal with my son. Thank you,
how wonderful is this, and how very appropriate, Elena, because I work with children, I work with young adults, and I work with the child and everybody. So, you know, it's so appropriate to have you with us. Very, very, very happy, Elena, to be on board. Thanks. A very, very special thanks to you and Ganesh. How do I introduce myself? Now your son is giving me a trigger. Well, I am a daughter. I'm a wife. I'm a mom for 2 girls. I'm also a grandmom. And above all this, I'm a life coach too, right? Donning different roles, taking on different responsibilities, yet finding a common thread among them all has been what I've been striving throughout my life. And interestingly, while doing this, what I've realized is they're not very, very different roles. There seems to be a very, very common thread between these. And it seems to be triggering or enhancing 3 aspects in you. All that you have to do is ask me for it. Well, the clue is there. It's ask. Your attitude, skill, and knowledge. These are the 3 things that keep getting enhanced. Now, even as I start off, I would like to ask you a question. I did tell you about the various roles that I've done, but the first question that comes to my mind is, have you watched the movie Titanic, or have you heard about the shipwreck? I'm sure you have. Well, what do you think actually caused the ship to wreck? What actually caused Titanic to sink? I'm sure the first answer that came to your mind is a glacier, right? So what's about this glacier? Well, there is a part of it that meets our eye, which is on the surface of the water. There's a larger part of it, which is absolutely under the water, and we cannot even have a look at it. It's so seamless. It just disappears. It's not there for us to see. It's so intangible. Well, that is what caused the ship to go wreck, right? So one of the major learnings that I've had is the skill and the knowledge enhancement that is happening to us. They are tangible, they're evident. So Elena and I, when we just started off this conversation yesterday, the first thing that she told me was, yes, we seem to be doing a lot of knowledge and skill aspect, but attitude, I don't think we're really working on that much, because it's so intangible and there's so much more to do in that particular sphere. So why don't we really discuss that? Well, so that is going to be our endeavor today. So we need to take cognizance of this fact of what lies under the surface, not just carried away by what's happening on the surface. So Elena and I decided that we will share a few tools, techniques that actually helped me as an entrepreneur. And also helped me work on the various aspects, you know, and derive the various challenges that I'm seeing all across, and derive inspiration from the challenges and turn them into opportunities. So today I'm going to use a very simple strategy. I'm going to highlight the efficacy of a few tools that I kept using and techniques and my own experience of using these tools, and work on that as a sample. So this is going to be your sample today, hoping that this will inspire you, and it'll also help you gain insights, and it'll also pave way for innovation. The triple I is what we are going to be working on today for this 1 hour. Just be with me and participate. I look at this as a unique opportunity for you to look at the right kind of support that will help you arrive at this massive responsibility that you have taken up, innovating in the field of artificial intelligence. And if I remember the keynote speaker, Jitendra, speaking yesterday, he said you need to use this T approach, right? You need to go really broad and then you need to go really deep in one particular aspect so that you can actually achieve what you really want to achieve. So I think this is a fantastic endeavor to introduce you to a wide spectrum of people, and Alina is just doing that. Fantastic, Alina. Thank you for bringing me on board again. Let's see if any of my findings inspire you enough to work on, all for the cause of living well, just being with people while learning. And being with people like you inspires me, and I am inspired in order to inspire others, and that's the motto I work on. I do life skill training programs with schools, colleges, corporates, individuals, interest groups. I started my career as a teacher and then moved on to be the cultural ambassador, represented India and Japan, worked with educational institutions there and facilitators, worked with educators across India, trained many young minds to share and collaborate for the cause of learning. And I came across multiple challenges when I was doing this, because we had to be present physically everywhere. That was the first and foremost challenge that I tried to overcome. And these challenges that would touch me to the core of my heart. And every time I tried and resolved one challenge, it would make me feel so happy, but at the same time, make me feel so dissatisfied that I had so much to work on. And that's when I realized that I need to take the assistance of mentors from various fields and arrive at something tangible and feasible, given the restraint of time, space, resources. While doing this, I arrived at the mission and the vision of my life. So one of the key factors I observe when I work with youngsters is they're grappling with a lot of things. There is an information explosion happening all around. And therefore, at the click of a finger, they have access to a lot of information. And they feel they are empowered enough and want to move on in different directions. And then comes a stage when they're completely confused and they are so lost. Well, that's when I realized that it is so important for us to sit down, introspect, use very effective tools, and arrive at the purpose of our life. So we need to really ask ourselves 4 very, very simple questions, even when we begin. What do I love? What am I good at doing? What is it that the society really wants from me? And what do you think I can get paid for? Because if I do not have these resources, I can't continue in the process. Seemingly simple questions, but when I put the participants through these questions, there are innumerable number of blocks. Even as they use Excel sheets and, kind of provide the data for all this, they still can't figure out what it is that they want to do. That's when they need a personal touch. They need a mentor to, handhold them, guide them, help them connect the various dots that seem to be emerging from this plethora of desires that they have. Now, so this is a starting point. But many of them have come back saying that we've never even introspected along these lines ever before. Now that surprises me many a time. And I say, what is it that we are doing in the educational spectrum where we're not really giving our students enough time to introspect and ask these elementary questions and see, if they are able to kind of understand themselves a lot better. Let me share with you a small incident. Now, what is it that actually drove me to do what I am doing? So through my academy, when I kind of work with all these youngsters, what is it that drives me? And I always feel it's an act of compassion that drives me. But let's understand the word compassion itself. And I think this is a very important term for all of us to understand when we embark on massive projects with such a plethora of people, supporting us. So here was this little psychiatrist, a young psychiatrist, who embarked upon an internship. He wanted to go and do an internship in a hospital. And he was allowed to observe a lot of the patients, many of the patients there. And he chanced upon a guy who was crying all day through. Now, he was very disturbed because he could feel the pain of this young guy. And he said, this is the case I want to take up. But when he went to his seniors, asking them the very same question, the first thing they told him is, well, we worked very hard on this case, and I don't think this is a case you need to take up during your internship. So why don't you think of some other cases? And they made other suggestions for him and just left the floor open for him. But definitely, he couldn't take on that particular case he desired to. Well, he came back, and on his way back home, he's completely disturbed, and he meets another monk. And he goes there and he asks the monk, okay, I'm very disturbed and I want to work on this specific case because it hurts me so much to see him in so much pain. It pains me. So the monk simply said, keep the pain, retain the pain, he said, and continue to feel the pain, he said. Now, this man was totally surprised. He said, what do you mean, feel the pain? I mean, how can I live with this pain? The monk went on to explain that you might not work on this specific case, but the pain will surely nudge you to look for solutions. And the solutions that you find are going to help many more, not just that one specific case. So you see, we start there. It is an act of compassion and a pain that actually drives us or inspires us. Yesterday, when I was listening to all the speakers, each one of them from a very different field, and each one of them was coming up with things that rattled them. Some were giving you very strong data points. Some were just nudging your consciousness. There were a few others who were just making it come along to your awareness. Some of them were just talking about the present scenario and how it is affecting them. But at every single step, you will notice that it is one pain that they were speaking about. But interestingly, the same pain can actually immobilize us. It can stop us from acting. It can move us to inaction because you don't know how to deal with this, where to start, and how to go forward. But trust me, if the pain is genuine and if it's truly touched you, you will be stirred to action. You will start seeking the support that you require. So the very first I that I wanted to bring to your notice is we are usually inspired by the compassion that we feel, the pain that we feel. So I genuinely appreciate this platform where everyone is coming from different walks of life and talking about the challenges that they're facing. And we all know that the very same challenge becomes an opportunity for somebody who's ready to work on it, right? Who's not looking at it as a problem, not becoming problem-centric, but becoming more and more solution-centric. So on that note, let me see if the examples that I'm going to share now, the samples of my work and what actually stirred me into action, inspires you to think deeper and perhaps even come up with an AI solution, because you will see there is a lot that is required in this field and for the field of education. So are you ready to dive deeper? Okay, so here is another small sample for you. So the same thing was happening to me. I was moving around the country working, and I told you that every time I worked on a particular problem, it would make me feel happy, but at the same time, completely dissatisfied that there are so many more that I need to work on. I would always feel, oh my God, we need so much human resource. I would always feel that there is no competition. There is a dearth here. And today, I am truly dreaming about AI, taking on and donning that role in a bigger way in order to make many of these ideas scalable. So let's just go forward and see how I worked on at least getting some semblance of normality to my action, moving out of this zone of frustration, which I'm sure anybody who embarks on a project does face. because I am assuming that many of us who are already thinking about which particular aspect I need to work on is already thinking about, oh my God, there's so much for me to work on. Right. So I used a tool, the Minto pyramid, it's called the SCQA. It's like, look at the situation and, work on it, look deeper, arrive at a challenge that's actually creating this situation. Then ask yourself a question on, how you can resolve this particular issue, and then come up with a solution as an answer for the same. So today, and this is one thing that I keep playing games most of the time, and they are card games that I play. So here I have, I can't be playing a game with you today, maybe sometime later, but I am just going to say, this is what I do. I keep creating cards for myself. I keep asking these questions, and then I keep fanning myself with this, because this is what is going to give me some semblance of normality. Right. So here is the first situation that I came across, which nudged me very deeply. And while I took the help of various mentors to help me arrive at some tangible things to work on, there were 8 challenges that I decided to take up and design my programs to resolve these 8 challenges. So the first one, and it's going to ring a beautiful bell with all of us here, today, many young and old are confused. They are disgruntled and unhappy about the career choices that they have made or have been forced to make because they're missing direction. Have you come across yourself feeling that way? Have you come across other peers feeling the same way? Most definitely we have. And what is the challenge? Why is it happening? Why is it that they are making the choices and still, so disgruntled? Why is it that they are shifting responsibility and blaming somebody for having forced them to take on that particular stream? This happens across countries, right? So the challenge is, that's because in the educational system, many lack the exposure, experiences, and opportunities to meet new people and places aligning with their interest. So deep down, they know what they are good at, what they enjoy doing, what they can do, what they love, but they're not really meeting enough people in real life who can actually guide them and mentor them and steer them into this kind of action. And so comes the question then, the question that I must ask myself as an educationist, right? Do we have systems in place that consistently bring together minds to align our interests to the needs of others? Now, if you look at see how the cosmos even construed to make this meeting happen. Elena just said, it was a chance meeting that happened, and I'm on board already. And I call it, I call it a divine ordinance, because look at what has happened. This is exactly what we do at IBM too. We equip learners with the necessary attitude, skill, knowledge in their scope of interest, and coupled with travel elements or moving around. Why? In order to connect with people. Now, because of the COVID scenario, it's not even possible to travel. Then how do we do it? We just simply need to use platforms of this nature in order to connect and get the youngsters to connect with people across fields. And I think it's phenomenal. In a week's time, in about 10 days' time, if you're going to meet this many people and everybody else who's watching these live sessions, and you are also, going to be watching the recordings, they are all of a sudden going to feel stimulated that there are so many thinking like them. And perhaps one of the ideas will ring a bell for you. And let's really hope that does it. So this was the first challenge. The second challenge, and which I felt again was linking so perfectly with what we are doing today, is this is what I observed around me. Collaboration is a need in all sectors today. It's very important. Remember what the keynote speaker, said even yesterday. He said, in this situation now, do we sacrifice a 7-year-old or a 70-year-old? We can't. 7 is the next generation, and the 70 is going to be bringing in so much, a wealth of experience. And he also added that it is so important that you don't just work with technology experts, but actually work with people ranging, in various sectors, because that's where the reality is, that's where the problem is, that's where the challenge is, and you're using this tool in order to resolve that challenge. So collaboration is definitely a much required need in the sector today, but in reality it is selective collaboration that is practiced. Now, this is something even Elena brought up in our discussion. She said, so true, because when we think of AI, the first thought, children are more inspired by people in technology. But I think these 7 to 8 days is going to open your eyes to the cross spectrum of collaboration that you really need to start working on. So learners, but what actually happens when we kind of narrow down and do selective collaboration? It becomes difficult to accept perspectives. And there's a threat, a growing gap between age groups, interests, hierarchy, disciplines today. Now, this is precisely the drift, and therefore there are no real situations and solutions that we are going to come up with. It might not, whatever we work on might not really connect with the actual needs. So the question that I ask myself is our learning system nurturing collaboration among diverse groups of people without boundaries? And this particular platform seems to have just done that. And that's what I'm striving to do too, to stimulate learners across generations, competencies, locations, and move from this I concept to a we concept. Now, easier said than done. As I open up each challenge, I would like you to keep making small notes and records. You never know which challenge is something that's going to, you are going to resonate with. The third challenge that I started working on was this. Most of us, are seeking shortcuts, short-term results, quick fix solutions. Oh my God, I need to work on a project. Let me quickly arrive at it. But the situation that's emerging out of this habit is we are unable to claim ownership and demonstrate accountability. Now, we are unable to do it. We are not able to take complete accountability for all the tasks in hand. That's also because somewhere down the line, there are various other life skills that are missing. It's about collaborating, it's about trusting each other, it's about sharing responsibility, and it's about delegating work. And there are so many other aspects that come into play. But the thought process, it's so important that what is the question? It is really about, it's not just the result, it's not what you're going to innovate, but it is the effort that you put, every step that you put into this innovation, which is actually going to leave a long-lasting impact. So then the focus for me became, all right, we need to really work on helping everybody understand that we need to focus on our efforts for better results and not just the result. Because if you focus just on the result, then by hook or crook, you will definitely be there. And I don't think it's going to be a long-term solution at all. Now came yet another challenge. This is shocking because we actually saw there are a lot of websites, a lot of different, which actually help you write your resumes, right? So people started, a lot of youngsters began outsourcing resumes. They started outsourcing portfolios, they started outsourcing resumes, they started outsourcing their projects. And I would often wonder, why are they doing this? Are they doing this just because they don't know how to present themselves? Is it articulation? Is it just that there's no clarity in the way they are thinking? And is that all the support that they are really looking for? But interestingly, after a huge survey, we realized that it is not articulation alone, but many of the youngsters did not really, or even slightly older people did not really have real life stories to speak about. They hadn't really been in those situations. Uh, they hadn't been empathetic in a particular. The compassion in them had not really emerged, and hence there was this block. And since they did not have life experiences, they were actually going in for these solutions. But that came as a shock, because it does definitely have a very adverse effect on everybody, when you outsource. So it's beautiful. So we need to do even outsourcing with a lot of responsibility, right? It's with collaboration, understanding, focusing more on the efforts than only the results. And that is exactly what helps us. Now, it is while I'm actually sharing with you about 7 or 8 challenges, and just see, your mind, you're going to reel under the impact, because that's what happened to me too. I mean, how many challenges do I take up, and how do I really start weaving programs? I need to understand, I need to our previous speaker spoke about the data points and the authenticity of the data, how much data I need to collect, how do I go about collecting that data. So these are the specific challenges that come in our way, even as we look at the situations and identify challenges. So there is this absolute need and that craving, for people to support us with technology, with AI, because there is so much more, there are so many variables when you're working with minds. And that's where I come from now. So many are easily cooped up in their comfort zones, right? And our own local areas, flavors, culture. These are some things that really hold on to us. And the challenge that emerges because of this is it has made many nervous of accepting change and being enterprising, to explore new locations to work in, to explore and work on new ideas. But today, life has thrown us in a sphere where exploration and innovation has become the norm. What you are going to be working with and the kind of technology we are going to have in even a couple of years is something no school would have even dreamt of. Now, if that is the case, then as educational institutions, it's also very, very important to give all the youngsters an exposure across cultures, right? And bring and that's again, this little platform is doing that. And it's a fantastic initiative. And it's kind of, when I sit down and listen, yesterday I listened to a couple of speakers. One was from talking about problems in Kenya, and it was about women there, and somebody was talking about Cambodia, and every single thing was nerve-wracking, and it did stir us, right? So it simply means the minute we open our eyes, we stop this attitude of being a frog in the well and realize that there is so much more happening, and this is the way our world could go too. Or can we learn from certain mistakes and prevent our world from going there? So this is another challenge that I'm just very, very close to my heart. Now, while doing this, so here are about 7, 8 challenges that I'm grappling with, and they are moving me. And that's when, only after I sat and articulated these, after research, after working with mentors, after even working with people who will bring clarity to my words, etc., I was able to arrive at the mission and the vision. And today there is a driving force in me. I mean, it's not about what opportunity comes my way. I simply connect it with what I'm working on, and thus feel at home and have a sense of belongingness with whatever is happening around me. So the mission that I came up with after having worked on this, is enabling learners from diverse backgrounds to realize their capacity, nurture their ability, and capably align it to the needs of the others. Easier said than done, but even to arrive at that, it took its own sweet time. Vision: equip learners with the necessary attitude, skills, and knowledge in their scope of interest, coupled with travel, to get connected with and resolve issues in the real world with implications in the future. Wow. And after that was done, everything started happening. There were projects that began to happen around me. There were the purpose of life. These were programs that started emerging out of this entire system. So it was so important to gain these kind of insights, to resonate with these challenges, to see, if there are opportunities in each challenge, and then start working on innovations, right? So that's when the tagline happened. I said, it's very important for all of us to go through a journey of from capacity to capability. Now, when I sat and wrote that, it's not just merely playing with words. Every one of us has a spark. The more youngsters I get connected to, I simply bask in the spark that they have, the effervescence of the sheer energy that they have, and the spark that they carry. Every one of us has a spark. Let's assume that you have a spark and you have the capacity to be a chef. Obviously, our next step is to work on your ability, right? You start sharpening your skills, your knowledge and your skills, and you start working with mentors in all the areas, and you keep sharpening your skill, and suddenly you become a very able person. You're able to cook any kind of dish, any kind. But when is it that you will actually be called capable? That's the question I want you to ask yourself. You have the spark, you have the ability, you've nurtured all your talents, but when is it that you will be called capable? Well, simple. When will you be called a capable chef? And who is to call you that? Obviously, the person on the receiving end, the client, right? So let's say you're cooking for somebody, you're cooking for someone with diabetes, you're cooking for someone who is on a diet, you're cooking for a sportsman, and you're taking care of all the needs and the requirements of that person, and then doling out a dish. That's when you get the aha moment and the aha moment, and that's when. So capability is about connecting with the needs. So even our previous speaker was talking about, if you have to connect with needs, then it's very, very important to go and meet these people who are needy, right? So all of us who actually touch base with you come across as needy. We're all working on various aspects, and there is a long way to go. There are many variables. There is a scalability and a proportion we are talking about, and we need solutions, right? So unless we connect with this need, we will never become capable, right? So in order to do that, it was very, very important to keep staying connected with these kind of people, and even to identify what is that one aspect that is moving me. Coming back to what I said at the very beginning, something that gives me the pain, something that makes me feel compassionate, and something that stirs me into action, right? So that's the journey. It's a journey from capacity to capability for all of us. So in order to move to that third step, it is so important to get aligned with needs. And I think that has to be a primary focus when we meet in portals of this nature. Having said that, so the first bet was inspiration. It's pain that inspires. And insights, which is looking deeper. And I just use a simple tool for you called the SCQA, which could kind of help you, assist you. There are so many of that kind, but just becoming aware of that there are such tools that actually help us dwell deeper and analyze and help us look deep into a particular problem really assists in bringing clarity. Now, it's not enough if we just stay there. It's so important now to innovate. So the needs to get connected now, and innovation happens. So when I connected with these 8 challenges, with these 8 situations, and arrived at the challenges and asked myself the questions, that's when innovation started happening. So today we have programs like Learn How to Learn. I looked at hobbies and said, wow, this is something that really adds life to a person, and a person does it very willingly. There are attitude, skill, and knowledge that really gets enhanced through these hobbies. But unfortunately, many of us drop our hobbies when we need to pursue higher education. It happens a lot in across dimensions. Well, how do we stay on with our hobbies? How do we even become aware as to what this hobby is actually doing for us, so that we hold on to our hobby, we work on something till a day when we can even learn through our hobby? So here was this young student who was very good at debating, and he simply enjoyed that. He was another student who was very good at quizzing, and they had to learn aspects on critical thinking and creative thinking and other things. So all that we had to do is use that tool of quizzing and debating in order to help them understand that way better. And they did it very quickly. So this is one concept, and this is one idea that came across, and this is something that we really need to work on. And this has to be made so much more scalable. We need human resource, we need people to even dissect the entire thing and show and bring it to everybody's awareness as to how the person is growing, even when he seems to be just having fun. And he seems to be, working on what he calls his hobby. Next is, there was yet another thing that happened. So I was talking about collaboration, right, across spectrums. And I realized that there is so much wealth within the family. There are people who are much older, but they have different thought processes happening. And there is a culture in which they are brought up. And the younger generation is also moving towards a very different kind of culture. But while we are moving, it's so important not to drift apart. It's so important to take cognizance of the fact that there is a wealth in the older generation and there is a spark in the younger generation. So when we actually work in tandem, we need to revel in that spirit and say, wow, when the 3 generations actually get connected, something magical happens. So that's when I designed another program called the 3 Generation Connect. So there were lots of games and lots of ideas that came up where we conducted sessions. We were looking for various opportunities where people are coming together. And we also realized that at social events and other places that they are in separate pockets. Remember, I told you, everybody wants collaboration, but it is selective collaboration that happens. So how do we actually bring them together? So we tried into common aspects and common topics like festivals, etc., and then weaved our knowledge and the attitude and the skill around these elements and brought them together. So again, this is just a very small endeavor. And I know there is a dearth. Artificial intelligence can bring everybody on the same. Today, if you look at this aspect, I have a lot of friends who are going to be logging in. They're just going to be watching this entire thing, and they are from different age groups. And they said, hey guys, we want to show the world, it's not just the youngsters who are AI, we are also sensitized to technology. And when I heard that line, I was touched. I said, oh yes, definitely do that, because they are there giving you the support and they are there wanting to reach out to you. to also tell you that what are the experiences they've had and what are the things that they never could work on, and they need the youth, the power of the young minds in order to actually take them forward. So that's when yet another program happened. It's called Roots to Roots, and habits for healthy habits. So I began to take nudges from ancient symbols and ancient symbolism, looked at the ancient Vedic wisdom, and I looked at the relevance of it today and said, and I see that the youngsters are more after science. So I looked at how scientific many of those aspects actually are, and started weaving games and conversations along these lines. And trust me, I have a lot of followers for that. And I have a diverse group of people actually talking. In fact, if I even got this platform, it was because of that. It's as interesting as that. So Elena wanted me to share with you a couple of the learnings from that, and let us just see, what you are able to make of that, and also see if this small sample triggers certain ideas and say, hey, I could actually do this. I could actually come up with this kind of a solution using AI, which can really enhance perspectives. It can make people think from different angles. So here is a little nudge for you. Okay, so the question is, here is this very ancient muse. Now I'm bringing in India, I'm bringing the culture from there. There are a plethora of gods there, and all the gods have different faces. They have different animals depicted as gods, different birds depicted as gods, and one always wonders, why are they being put on a pedestal? But I realized that, it simply was that people then were so close to nature. They understood nature so very well, and they put those qualities, they observed those qualities and said, oh my God, we need to be inspired even by nature. We need to be inspired not just by people around us and how they think, but it is about animals and how they function, and plants and how they function. And when we actually start looking deeper, we might actually come up with a lot of solutions for ourselves. And that's what they did. So so here is this god. He's called the god of knowledge, and he has the head of a horse. Now the question is, why should the god of knowledge have the head of a horse? So here's a question for you. What do you know about a horse? Okay, it keeps galloping. Oh yes, it for sure does. Anything else? Does it lie down and sleep? Hardly. It takes power naps. It doesn't lie down to sleep. It stands and rests. Very rarely does it actually come down and lie down. Anything else? It keeps running for sure. But why does it do that? Because it's its nature to. Now let's do a small comparison. Have you heard of a cheetah? Have you seen a cheetah in action? What's the first word that comes to your mind when you think of a cheetah? It's speed. It runs too. When you think of a horse, you think of running and speed. When you think of a cheetah, you think of running and speed. But what's the difference? A cheetah runs after prey. A horse keeps running because it's nature to run. So it's a spurt of energy that happens in a cheetah. It goes chasing something, and once it gets its prey, and has a prey, it just goes and hangs from the branches. And after it's raced and caught on, many a time you find it breathing with its tongue out. It's gasping for breath. It's breathing hard. But the horse, have you actually observed how the horse breathes? Have you even observed it? Well, it simply flares its nostrils. That's about it. And now that set the balls in motion for us. we started studying the scriptures, the little hymns, on the name of this God, and suddenly noticed that this is exactly what the ancients here were trying to say. They said, well, you need to work like a horse, especially when you're pursuing knowledge and when you want to really learn something and work on something, you need to work like a horse. What do we mean by that? We mustn't have a prey mindset. We must learn because it's our nature to learn. Second, we need to breathe easy while we are learning, because if we do gasp for breath, we cannot even speak what we are intending to speak. So it's so important to align your breath. The better the oxygen supply for the brain, the better is your assimilation, right? And rest. You cannot just take huge chunks of knowledge and then sleep on it. You will have to be at it, and you'll have to work on it consistently, and you'll have to imbibe that and ensure that you're not panting at the end of it all. Powerful, right? So now this magic began happening when we connected nature and connected ancient science, symbolism, great memories, connected with all cultures, multifarious cultures. There's a fantastic response that comes right from a 6-year-old to an 80-year-old or a 90-year-old. Everybody responds with whatever little they know, whatever little they do. So my question to you is, there are a lot of people out there who are dwelling deeper into the issues. They are getting inspired, certain things hurt them. They're getting inspired, and that pain and that compassion makes them dig a little deeper, and then they begin to innovate. So it's now the responsibility of the younger generation to actually tap into this, which already exists. People who've already walked the path, who've already identified many challenges. We need to just be there, be with them, and work in tandem and come up with solutions that can actually expedite the process. It can actually increase this and enhance the very speed of this work. This is one other area that we are working on. And I thought this time when I was talking to Elena also, I said, let me just take them through a very real journey of a struggling entrepreneur who has many challenges and working on a lot of them, wishing to and wanting to collaborate with different people and work in different areas and ensure that these ideas take shape and scale up, because they are not ideas that can just be dumped. These are ideas that are born out of care, out of compassion. So on that note, I would like to take a few questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, Jayshree. I'm just looking to see whether there are any questions. That was such a fascinating presentation, and I'm so happy you have touched upon some of the stuff that we don't usually discuss in our programs, but they are so essential and so important and really binds everything. So there are no questions at the moment. And Jayshree, my son keeps coming in every time you are live.
I think he finds me approachable.
He definitely does. So he has been whispering to me. So yes, it's one of those.
How old is your son? Because I can then perhaps how much time do we still have? So we can.
Yes, we will be wrapping up soon because we have teenagers who are who need to get back to their teams. But I am really pleased that you've joined us, and I know we'll have a follow-up conversation. And I'm looking to see whether there are any questions. I'm not seeing any just yet. So if you are watching the stream, please let me know if you have any questions, because Jayshree is here to respond. So there is one I would like to take, and this is on the importance of being present and meditation. How important is it, and what advice would you offer young people, because they are at the moment incredibly stressed?
Very true.
And it will probably become a little bit more stressful towards the end of the accelerator. And so perhaps you could offer us some advice on how do we create that balance, because I can see a lot of teenagers are online a lot during this program. You know, sometimes I log in at 11 just to see whether anyone needs help from our teams based in America, and I can see still teams based in the UK at a very late hour still working on their products. Something I don't encourage them to do, because I really do think there needs to be a really good balance. What advice would you offer to them?
Right. So I work with a lot of youngsters, and this is precisely what's happening across the globe, because they want to learn so much, and they're connecting with different platforms. So they're working, the Indians working on America time and Americans working on India time. And so the first thing that I always ask the youngsters to become aware of, like today I just brought up the horse, is to become aware of the nature of your own body. Right? Start doing a little bit of research on how your brain works and how your body works. And for example, it is said that different organs in our body perform optimally at different times. Right? So let's say our lungs perform optimally in the morning. So it's about 4 to 6 in the morning, just that's when your lungs perform optimally. And similarly at night, 10 to 12 in the night, that's when your liver performs optimally. And when anything is performing at its optimum level, that's when you need to exercise it, right? Mm-hmm. So it simply means that most of our exercises and our warming up and everything should happen pretty early in the morning. And while the liver functions when the body is flat on the ground, which means you need to be lying down flat from 10 to 12 in the night. Now so it's just about becoming aware of how your body is functioning and the kind of rest you're giving it. That's one very important aspect. The second aspect is that just look deep. Whenever you are emotional and whenever you're watching a movie, I'm sure you have come across certain disturbances in your body, right? You get goose pimples, you start breathing fast, lots of other changes that happen. But one thing that just goes unnoticed by all of us is the breath. So it is the breath that we take for granted. In fact, with every change in emotion, there's a change in our breath. So if we are able to reverse it, if we work on our breath, we can work on our emotion. That's the magic pill. So simply learning up a dozen breathing techniques and to just keep doing it intermittently while you're working, even a simple gesture. Sometimes your body automatically reacts, it's trying to realign itself, but we are so unaware of it. For instance, if your eyes are really strained and they're burning, all that you need to do is pull your ears and keep working on your ears. And there is phenomenal work that has been done in this field, and you will actually experience that your eyes clear up and you're feeling less strained. So these are the little magic tips you need to pick up and keep working on it. And the more you experience it, there are universities that are working on breathing techniques and meditation at a very, very big level. But even before you doubt it and go into, trying and find out how authentic it is, simply try out a few of the techniques and see how it actually starts helping you. And the research will definitely follow, and you will definitely get the answers. Just take it from experience first. I think that's the lesson we've all been learning, right? There are so many with such phenomenal experience. They've been speaking throughout the day, even yesterday. Just cash in on that experience and work in your style. And I think we'll resolve innumerable number of issues for the next generation to come.
Amazing, and that's fantastic. So can you teach us, or can you give us some resources in terms of where could they go and learn how to breathe, just to alleviate the stress, the pressure, and be
So,
calmer and
so
grounded?
okay. So from my personal experience, I will say there are a lot of people who are doing absolutely genuine work, and art of living is one such thing where you have the Sudarshan Kriya. Even the Yale University has taken it up in a very, very large level, and there's tremendous research that's happening in that field. I think just going in for the breathing techniques, that are being taught there is making a. So I've been a practitioner for over 17 years now, and I wake up at 3:30 in the morning, and 4 to 6 I work only on myself, because after 6 the world needs me for various things. I get disturbed, right? Your kid comes to you, your grandkid comes to you, and you have other tasks to do. So how did I even get into that habit? Is only because I cared a lot. So it's this is how I feel it works. If we genuinely are pained by certain things that are happening, and if we really care to bring about change, the first person you'll care about is yourself.
Amazing. No, I love that. Fantastic. Now, I've always wanted to marry our sort of program focused on technology, but at the same time, really touch upon self-development and stuff we can do to improve ourselves. And I think the big changes happen when we really start from changing ourselves. So I'm really grateful, Jayshree, you've joined us today.
But I really loved what the previous speaker said, don't take it too hard on yourself. You are going to have a lot of people who are going to question the authenticity of your work and this, but just go on, because you know that it is bringing about a change, and that is what matters most.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jayshree. We will speak again soon. And everyone, well done for listening to all the 3 talks. I know Jayshree's talk was a little bit longer than the others, but I think she had so many very important points for you to relay to take away. And so I just wanted to leave you with something that hopefully will give you some tips, some pointers, because this is not a very easy it's not going to be very easy 2 weeks. It's only day 2 today. There is a lot for you to achieve. You really do need to find that balance in your life. And meditation is something I'm really passionate about. And I would all really love you to try meditating in the mornings or in the evenings, just to keep sort of grounded and really know what it is that you're doing, because it will help you focus as well. And Jayshree is happy to share, various tips with us if needs be. So we will have her again if we need her more of her advice and tips. So thank you and well done for joining us today. And tomorrow we have 2 exciting speakers joining us again, and this will be happening every evening at 5 o'clock. So Jayshree, thank you for joining us. Thank you, and enjoy your time with your granddaughter. I know you are in Seattle enjoying your time, so this is such precious time, and you've dedicated an hour to us. Thank you, Jayshree.
Thank you.
Okay, bye everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock here on YouTube.